Hi, this is Jenny Clark with Solvability, and today's Freedom Friday we have a special guest, Ashely Haass. Ashely helps small businesses in federal contracting understand how to sell their story, how to tell their story. And it's called a capability statement, which is what the government calls our little calling cards that other people would have called a sales sheet or something else, but it's always called a capability document. And people will say, well, send me a copy and you'll send it out in PDF, but there's so much more to it. I'm just going to get my friend Ashely, who's, by the way, in this book, Game Changers, to go ahead and Ashely, tell us about how important it is for people to have the right information on their capability statement.
Yeah, hi Jenny, thank you for the intro. So we'll just jump right into what is a capability statement. So kind of as you alluded to in your preview for this session, it's a resume for your business. And in the world of federal contracting, you have to have a capability statement. So why do you need one? You need one to use it to network with new agencies, send to contracting officers, use them in capabilities briefings to network as your business card. I say used to because like pre-COVID, right? I always used to print them on good card stock and hand them out at industry days to everyone I met. But this applies to virtual industry days as well, of course. You need to submit for certain sources sought responses, RFIs, submit with bids and proposals, and the like. It's basically an element to your overall approach. So it's an intro to start relationship building, which is really what winning opportunities boils down to. Your capability statement is your intro and it's your broad general overview. It gets you in the door. The goal is to meet with the customer, and then you really expand upon it and you sell yourself when you're in front of them. So you have to instill confidence in your competency, your efficiencies. The capability statement, like I said, it gets you in the door, but you have to execute once you're in.
Well, Ashely, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that people think that when they go into government contracting, especially if they've gone to the SBA and everybody says, rah, government contracting, you should do this. It's so easy. But it's not. And I think the hardest thing for most companies is figuring out, what do I go after? Because I could go after anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the companies that walk in and say, hi, I'm Jenny, I'm a woman-owned small business, I can do anything, what do you need? They're going to slam the door. Actually, I'm not even going to get the appointment, right? Tell me what the trick is here.
Sure. So of course, you want to be clear and concise. So how you find the words to really convey your message, I'll go over a little bit of that. So it's much more than a printed document. It's how you differentiate yourself. What do you want to portray? What your certifications are. It needs to translate your company's capability, your integrity, your moral compass, how you can support the customer. How are you going to discern yourself from other companies with the same capabilities? I like to tell companies to think of it as a verbal interview, such as, if you work with us, here are our resources, here's our infrastructure, here's what value we bring. That's the key, right? So it transcends written words and you have to exude what the customer can expect if they're to engage with you. I definitely want to overview some things that you want to make sure you include. They're basics, but they're super important. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a couple examples and just kind of walk through the basic stuff. So give me a second. And I'll open up one. So this is a company that, can you guys see my screen?
It's coming up.
Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is and if I need to zoom in, just let me know. Hopefully you can read it. I have horrible eyes, so usually I have to zoom up everything.
Yeah, zoom in a little bit. I think we could use some more.
Okay. So let's try. Is that better or more?
A little bit more, because I think we're going to have to kind of slide up and down for it. Okay. That helps.
Okay, maybe I'll try 80. I'll just go up and down. So Bodark is a small woman-owned IT company that I work with. I help them develop their capability statement. So the main elements you want to include, right? They have a little bit of a bio here. They have their capabilities bulleted out, very clean, concise. They have some of the logos with the technologies that they use. This is client in particular who didn't have federal past performance when I first began working with them. So that's another great tip for businesses who just want to break into the federal contracting world and they don't have that past performance with the agencies, because usually you list your agency logos with who you've worked with. They don't have federal agencies to list. So we chose some of the projects that they've worked on with in the private sector, but clients that have big federal portfolios, right? Like big defense contractors. So we featured those right here, past project examples. Basic elements always include NICE codes, of course, cage code, DUNS, contact information. This featured their client portfolio. Again, it's featuring a lot of their big defense client contractors, even though it's not direct federal past performance. They also hold their GSA IT schedule holders, IT schedule 70 holders, excuse me. So, you always want to list if you have any schedules like that. They have their Texas, their state woman-owned certification here, and their contact information, Those are kind of like the basic elements that I like a one-sheeter, very clear, clean, easy to read. And yeah, so I'm going to show you a couple other examples as well to kind of get an overview of different sectors, because we work with, IT clients, medical clients, construction clients, design clients, all over the map, and everybody does business with government. So this is a client, they do design work, and I like their capabilities because a lot of their personality shines through. They included their profile photos.
I think that's really interesting that they put their profile photos, because there's been studies done on with pathology labs where if the pathologist reading the slide had seen a face, they tended to associate it more and they were more accurate in their readings. And I really think that's part of the reason why LinkedIn is so popular, is because people see your face. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I see somebody and I can remember them a lot better than if it didn't have their pictures on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if I always like to tell clients too, when you schedule, say, a capabilities briefing, I attach it to the calendar invite, the capability statement. So, and when you're meeting with them, you have it up again, you're reviewing it, it's like a double exposure. So if they're seeing your picture as well and your face, they're just so much more inclined to remember you and to keep in front of them. But, same thing here. They've got their little blurb about their company. I like the way they put out their core competencies in these graphic elements, and which is in line with the company, right? Because of what they do, their primary NICE codes, their clients, and then all their certifications here. Those are federal, state, and local, because it depends, you can tailor that to the customer. And then this is a two-sheeter. So your second sheet here is featuring your projects that you want to feature and the client that it was with. And of course, being a design company, they're featuring the design element of that client as well. So I really like that. You can get creative, like I said, but you always just want to kind of make it very simple, easy to read, not too many words. Another one I love, this is for Dinah Grace. So Linda Rawson is actually another author in the book for Game Changers for Government Contractors. And she's super, super cool, woman-owned IT company. This is her CAPE statement. And, she has her clients listed down here. She's got the logo. She got her GSA schedule. Got her little blurb about the company, her core competencies, very simple, bulleted out, all her NICE codes, the technologies they use, contact information, so simple, right? Like just a great one-sheeter that has all your information.
Well, I think this is really good. The way Emily pointed out, it's got the capability statement up at the top. And one of the things I think she found frustrating when she was working as the small business director for Navy is how many people would walk in and lead and say, well, I'm an 8A, like, okay, give me, or whatever it was. And I think that what we're really trying to emphasize is what is the problem you solve, and it really gets their attention that way. Russ also asked a great question. Are they written with the contracting officer in mind or with companies in mind?
Well, I think that depends on who you're targeting, right? Because like we said, you're tailoring it to your opportunity. So if you're going after a specific agency, then I'm going to tailor it to that contracting officer for sure. But if it's a private sector, and then forgive me if I'm misinterpreting the question, but if it's a company, then you would tailor it differently in that regard, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's have you talk about the next one then. Thank you.
So yeah, and I just want to definitely point out tips for formatting a design. It's important. If you have to hire a graphic designer, do it. It's worth the investment. Firms like mine, we have them in-house, so that is always included. And you want to make it beautiful. You want to show your personalities, your company personality. And what you stand for, it needs to represent you well, so be sure it's consistent with all of your company branding, and things like that. Also, if you have any joint ventures, how we talked about sort of tailoring it to different opportunities, you also want to tailor it to, if I have a joint venture with XYZ company, my capabilities and what my value is a lot, and my past performance, it's different than just me as a company alone. So you want to have several different versions if you're competing in spaces in that regard where you have different joint ventures. And also, like I was mentioning with Bodark, how they had no federal past performance. Feature those projects again. Like, I know I keep repeating myself, but it's so important because government wants to see that you can perform and bring value, even though you haven't directly worked with them, right? You can still, if you're going after a Department of Transportation and you do a lot of road work, construction company, let's say, and you've done work with local and state agencies, feature those projects, and that's going to go a long way. Well, as far as resources go, which I'm going to show you another capability statement that ties into our good friends Josh and Mike at RSM Federal. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So if you need help putting yours together, or writing copy or templating or anything like that, there's a ton of great resources online. Our good friends at RSM, though, they do have capability statement templates that on their website at rsmfederal.com. And this is theirs, again, kind of the same idea, right? So they have what their services are here, their certifications, their company data, where you can get more information, contact information, government past performance, those agency logos, easy, simple to read, other private sector past performance, what they do for you, all on one sheet, simple, clean, nice. So there's definitely a lot online that you can get, and you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to assist people and businesses with formatting and designing their capability statements. I like to also always look at competitors, right? So if there's other primes who are winning the work that you want to go after, go on their website, find their capabilities, look and contrast and compare, see what your competition's doing and what they're putting out there. Learn from
Well,
them.
I think this is so important, Ashely, because you feel like you're always getting ready to do business with the government, and there's so many preparatory statements and things that you have to do. Like, I'm thinking about this and their website and their social media presence, and going out and getting that work so you can put it on this type of a document. And what is different about RSM Federal and what we're talking about anyway is you really have to work with people that understand our industry, because I've always said it's an industry within an industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different language and everything. And the other, I find things like this painful. I can never do it myself, so I'm really glad to know you're the one to send everybody to.
Yeah, I love doing CAPE statements, to be honest. I think it's super fun, and I just love putting together that whole picture of the company, what their value is, and their personality all shining through in one sheet. And it's fun, and and it's something to be proud of, right? But it's also a necessity. So a couple other tips that I would say, once you have your capabilities statement in place and it's well designed, reach out to the targeted agency contacts you have, try to schedule capabilities briefings. Right now these are virtual, like I mentioned, but they're still readily available, highly effective. And when you have those meetings, follow up with them afterwards, stay in front of them, and then make sure when you gain more past performance or you win new contracts or you start working with new agencies, update your capability statements. Make sure on your website that they're current. People forget this a lot. If you change your logo, make sure your design, your branding is always in line. If you get new certifications, change all of that. Make sure your CAPE is always updated. And it's always a great idea to have a federal tab on your website with the downloadable PDF, right, that you can attach emails and calendar invitations like I mentioned. And then, yeah, that's another tip is you can also attach it to your LinkedIn profile. And I will, in my closing, I will wrap it all up, but in the end, I do want to ask Emily, I would love to know her feedback and perspective as the contracting officer, what she didn't or did like to see in these capability statements. But, you know, basically to wrap it all up, to get you in the door with your CAPE statement, but that gets you in the door, but it all ties back to building trust, right? With customers who believe you have the ability to support their needs. And it begins with your relationship building. Once they get a comfort level with you, that's the key. Even if you don't get immediate work, at some point in time, the customer will reach out to you and make it happen, and then they'll use you all the time. So that becomes repeatable, and there you have your continuous revenue, which is what we're all striving for, right? So.
Well, Ashely, it seems like you just made it really easy. What I think is funny is when people start early on in federal contracting and they're sending out these emails and they're like, well, they didn't respond. And what is the trick to getting people to respond? I've been told that the main thing is to contact them and follow up and make some phone calls so they remember who you are without being pesky about it. But the other thing is, in general, a government contracting officer or somebody that's doing their research isn't going to make phone calls or send emails to do it. They're going to be using their own tools online. And so that's why it's so important that you have your DUNS code, your CAGE code, and your NAICS code, because those are going to be the things they're looking to match when they're putting all this together. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, those are the elementary foundational things that you have to have them in the federal game, right? So before you put your CAPE together, you have to make sure you have your NAICS, your DUNS, your CAGE, or don't complete it. You know, it's not complete. Don't send it yet until you're ready with all of that. Then you're ready to go start sending it out and, you know, talk to these contacts. But I think that, you know, once you get all those basic elements set up, and you know what you can provide and perform on, and you start do a little research, you know, like Michael always says, you have to be a research ninja in the government contracting world, which is true, but it's also so easy to do these days. So research who's putting out the work that you provide, the services you provide, and target those people and those individuals and reach out. And if you have a properly put together CAPE statement and you can put, you know, some good sentences together and speak well, reach out and keep reaching out. And, you know, I like to say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's true. So.
Well, that makes sense. Hey, Mark Christensen, I'd love your input on how many times you had to go through these things in your marketing activity and all the stuff that you have to do, because you've been in this business a long time, right?
I don't know. What are you saying about my age there, Jenny?
Nothing.
Oddly enough, I've learned a lot on this. We don't have a one page at CCT. So I've been taking a lot of notes about how to do that. We have something that's really long and I'm learning probably quite boring. But I think it's important in what Ashely said is that it's opened doors for us, even in, I would say we're probably using it in a backwards way. We're using other ways to open the door and then sending this long capability briefing, which it's got me thinking of a different way to go about it by using this one pager to get that door open easier and more of them open potentially, because it can do the work for me and for our BD folks, as opposed to them having to make the personal calls. One other thing I wanted to say off topic is I stole Terry to speak at FC, just so you know.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So Emily Harmon, I'd love your thought about what, you know, when somebody would come and talk to you about what they were and how were they able to differentiate themselves? What was useful for you?
Okay, a few different comments that it made just seem like a stream of consciousness. One, don't be trying to get the admin person that answered the phone to understand your company's technical skills and capabilities. I don't know how many times my executive assistant was fielding calls and they would go into their whole spiel with him. And he's like, I'm just here to schedule the meeting. So he's not the person to be briefing. Number two, it's good to get your foot in the door with a capability statement. But one of the things I would say is to have several that you need to tailor. Like if you're going after Army work, it might be a little bit of a different twist than if you're going after Navy work, or if you're going after engine, like I used to work at the Naval Air Systems Command. We had engineering competency, we had logistics, we had, financial management. So let's say you have a company that can do all three of those things. I would recommend, having 3 different capability statements that you're tailored to, like one to engineering and one to logistics. And, the financial management people don't care about your engineering and logistics experience, so you've got to tailor it to the audience. And then I think also, I guess the database now is beta.sam. I mean, a lot of people do not use all of that. So it's great you have a capability statement, but if your stuff isn't up to date in beta.sam and you're not using all the keywords that the government would use, and if you're not using all your space, and if you've just put IT, you've got to come up with like, well, what differentiates your company, and all that stuff, and including updated email addresses and stuff, has got to be in there because contracting officers use that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one other thing is, if you do have this long brief, contracting officer really doesn't need to see it. The people that need to see it are the technical people. So you've got to get your foot in the door to see the technical people, really. The contracting officers aren't the ones that understand all that technical stuff. They just know how to get the thing on contract. So really know your audience.
Oh, I think those are really good tips. So one thing that's also come up is as we've been planning GovCon Summit, there are several people on the call that are a part of that, including Joe Young, Lucy Flynn, Russ Barnes, Emily Harmon. And we have a relationship now with a group called Public Spend Forum. They have a website called GovShop, and they've asked me to get people's contact information to get them to set up their profile on GovShop, because they're inviting Amazon Web Services on in October to talk to people about opportunities in IT through their organization. And just like the government's big, Amazon Web Services big. So it's like, Russ, if you wanted to go get IT work and you're calling Amazon Web Services, what are the odds that you're going to get anywhere? You don't know who to call. You have no relationships. What we are all building together is really a community marketplace or a coalition or an alliance to say, let's figure out how to organize ourselves a little bit better, because otherwise we're shooting with a shotgun, right? So be sure to send me your contact information over LinkedIn afterwards, and I'll make sure you're included, because what we're all trying to do is find a better way to do business. People are so frustrated with beta.sam, and I think everybody's been in all kinds of directories, but here's my crazy vision. I want to use GovCon Summit to have some electronic capability statements so that people can connect with each other, because the problem is not that people don't have the skills, it's that Russ has a specific IT skill and Mark has something different, but Joe Young is the guy that knows the guy. We need everybody. Yes. And Andy Bennett, I'd love to talk to you about this because I'm sure it comes up quite a lot. The other thing that's happening these days is people are talking about what are the future trends that we see across federal contracting. And here's what I'm picking. I think it's DoD migration to the cloud, which I call the Cloud Coalition, and anything that has anything to do with COVID, global health initiatives, PPP, CARES Act, or whatever. I'm calling that the COVID Coalition, because this change to our lives is not going away anytime soon. The companies that are going to be successful are the ones that are focused on it. They've got their facility security clearance if that's what's required. They've got their relationships. The other thing that's unique about the people that come to GovCon Summit is so many of them are used to operating overseas, OCONUS. They've got global reach, and I really want to have a way to connect all of those companies. So Ashely, thank you so much for being a part of it today. Would you mind giving everybody information about how to connect with you as we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you, Jenny, for having me. This was so fun. I love being a part of the GovCon community. I did put it in the chat, but you can reach me easily. My email, it's just my first name, ASHLEY @thedailybrief.us. Also on LinkedIn. My full name, Ashely Haass, that's Haass, and I have my website at thedailybrief.us as well if you want to find out more about what we kind of do and provide for businesses for doing business with government. So yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you were on, and thank you everybody for being on.